Hey, Junde, in the Japanese market, there seems to be a subgenre of game called idle games. And in particular, there's this game called Uma Musume Derby, or kind of like idle horse racing, which to Westerners, I think, seems like a very strange type of game mixing Japanese idols and horse racing. But it's in Japan, one of the top mobile RPGs in that market. And I was wondering if you could talk to us about this game, give us a little bit more context, starting with, what is this game about and how does it work?
Great, thank you. I think firstly, it's also kind of not so familiar for Asians. I do think it's a unique game that combines
Uh-huh.
two styles of gameplay. Firstly, horse racing, which is kind of in a kind of gambling setting, and
Yeah,
idle training sim, as you mentioned. So
right.
this story actually comes from an existing anime show in Japan, where some well-known racehorses, which actually had the names of actual famous racehorses in Japan, and they were reborn as pretty horse girls. They're like pretty girls, but they have horse ears and a tail. And then
Right.
the gamers would then raise these as idols, groom them, train them, and then race them competitively to win prizes. So that's the whole
Right.
concept of this game.
And Junde, why do you think this game does so well? You mentioned that this game is actually a little bit unusual, even for the Japanese market. So, what do you think are the secrets to its success?
Well, firstly, it's a combination of two successful types of gameplay. Horse racing and idle training were already successful in Japan.
Right.
But the interesting thing here was that horse racing was primarily a game played by men, and idle training sims were played by majority female gamers. So
Okay.
this was an attempt really to attract both audiences, and it seemed that they have achieved that objective quite well, and they've also got very high average user engagement and very high average revenue per user.
Right.
So that's the one thing they've done very well. It's a unique concept. And the next thing is that it's Uma Musume is also an existing IP in Japan. It came from a show, anime show. So it does benefit from having high production value because this production is linked to other cross-media projects and assets. They would have rich characters, rich storyline, voice acting, a lot of professional work being done. So this high production value also means that you can put a premium on the items being sold via gacha. So your characters, your rare items, these would have more recognition and more higher value as well from the users. And finally, because they're targeting Asia, so Asian markets are usually the first target markets for these type of games, because there is a stronger fan base of anime and more affinity towards Japanese culture in these markets, especially in North Asia.
Got it. And this game seems very specific to the Japanese market, but even if the game is specific to Japan, do you think there are things from this game that Western game developers can learn and potentially use in their markets, or if they're trying to enter the Japanese market?
But you're right that this is a very specific Japanese game, and although it's also picked up in Korea, I was chatting with one of my Korean colleagues, and he was saying that this game became a meme in Korea as another weird Japanese game, and it actually became very popular quickly. This meme, and so as for the potential of this success in the Western market, I think there is a potential because there's no shortage of the fan base of Japanese anime or Japanese games in these markets. But having said that, the idol training games so far they've had a hard time penetrating outside Japan because this theme of collecting cute female characters, I think this is quite specific to Japan or North Asia.
Okay.
In the first half of this year, we looked at the market data. Japan accounted for more than 70% of global downloads of the idol training sim subgenre, and actually
Mhm.
over 85% of global revenues. So it's pretty much still very concentrated in Japan. So I think in terms of what Western developers could learn from this, I think it's more of the lessons behind the production of this game.
Okay.
So, firstly, in terms of working with IP owners, that's a very attractive proposition. Actually, more attractive these days, especially with the changes around IDFA. And it would not be just restricted to gaming IPs. They could also work with movie IPs, book IPs, anime IPs, and so on.
Right.
And the other one, of course, would be the possibility of combining very unlikely gaming genres, gaming subgenres, and audiences to try to get the best of both worlds.
All right. Great. Well, Tunde, thanks so much for your time and insights. And that's it. Thanks.